here is Peachie. So like a lot of people lately, I may have been playing a lot of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Oh my goodness. Oh, sparkle, 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 sparkle. Okay, yeah. So words can't probably describe how much I have been enjoying this game. This game is actually significantly important to me in my personal history of playing video games, so I really wanted to talk about it today, and it's also topical. Like, this game is huge at the moment, like everyone's wanting to play it, so I thought I would talk about it and be a bit of a geek. Just to let you know, I took tons of landscape screenshots of this game because it's so pretty. So I'll be showing some of my pictures as examples while I'm going along with this talk. So if you really just don't want to see anything to do with this game because you don't want to be spoiled and want to go in blind, maybe just listen to this video instead of look, but I promise I won't be spoiling any of the story and I won't be like giving you any context of what the screenshots are or where they are on the map. So yeah, basically this game was revealed in June 2016 and I was like super ridiculously hyped like a lot of people, but for personal reasons that maybe other people won't specifically relate to. Like for a lot of people, Zelda fans were super interested in like the formula being mixed up and being made more expansive and epic. Personally, I have never been a Zelda fan. Like, I really like the character designs and everything. I really like Link and Zelda and Agatha, but I could never really get into the games. For me, the reason I was so excited about this game is because for the first time in almost 20 years of me playing video games, this has hit what I've been waiting for since the original Spyro the Dragon game. Now, I feel quite alone in this and how I can so easily compare Spyro the Dragon, the original series, to Breath of the Wild. And personally, this is really honing into what I personally absolutely obsess over with finding the perfect video game. And it's finally come after all this time. I've been playing this since the 4th of March. Today is now the 15th when I'm filming this. Absolutely say the hype has not worn off at all. Like, this game is so perfectly tuned to what I've been looking for in a game for 2 decades almost, that I just really want to explore some of the reasons why that is. To quickly summarise for people that have never played the original Spyro the Dragon games or have no idea what the heck I'm talking about. The original Spyro the Dragon games came out in about 1997, the original first game, when it was on the PS1. It basically encouraged players to play the game in the order you wanted. It included a vast exploration of these massive, gorgeous landscapes, like, you know, countryside and kind of medievally, but kind of their own unique style of like buildings and beautiful lush hills and mountains. And you had to like check every nook and cranny to pick up treasure that you could find, and it kind of rewarded your curiosity by being brave enough to look around in these different areas of these vast worlds. Now obviously, being in PS1 generation, there were massive limitations, so what would be considered a huge world back then would not be considered huge now. On top of that, one of the key gameplay elements to Spyro from the beginning was gliding. Jumping off like the highest points that you could find in the world and gliding over to places that you couldn't reach before. Legitimately one of the top things that will help you get around in Breath of the Wild, that they give you it very early on in the game, the ability to glide anywhere you want by, you know, looking for a peak, getting to the top and then seeing where you should glide down. It is exactly like Spyro and I absolutely love it for that. Also, I am speaking straight from the first Spyro game only. There was a real sense of being alone in this huge universe and you had kind of had the responsibility to set it right. That's also a big thing of this Zelda game, is that you are kind of alone and you need to survive in this wilderness, and you do meet characters along the way like Spyro, but for the most part you are kind of alone in this situation. So yeah, that kind of responsibility of you yourself being in this huge immersive world, I draw those two parallels to both the games, and I honestly, personally, I really like that feeling. I feel like that adds an extra level of immersion to the game because you've really got to rely on your own instincts in the game. Honestly, from the gliding point they show in that trailer at E3 June last year, I am so surprised not more people talked about the comparison to Spyro, because the background itself, the stuff you see in the distance, is so similar and it's so gorgeous, and I'm saying this from a completely positive note. I'm so glad that kind of feeling is back again after so long. Now from a technical view, I know most people probably don't look too deeply into how games are created unless you're particularly passionate about game design, like myself, and I spent a really long time researching how Spyro the Dragon game was created, because I really like learning how things I enjoy have been made and come to be. So basically, I'm not over exaggerating as someone who is a fan of Spyro the Dragon. You know, there's one guy in the Insomniac team called Alex Hastings, which you can directly thank for the way Breath of the Wild looks today. Back in the 90s, Alex Hastings created part of the code for Spyro the Dragon, which blew the entire team of Insomniac away that were currently working on the game. They asked him to do something for the game basically, and he did something way beyond what they were expecting. So to go to the classic, Super Mario 64 was like a revolutionary 3D game that kind of gave the feeling of, you know, exploring a whole 3D world by yourself for the first time. And obviously that would inspire games like Spyro the Dragon just a year or two later. But the problem with games like Super Mario 64 was draw distance, an issue especially with really early 3D games, first gen 3D games. So for example, things would just randomly pop in when you got close enough to them, and then they would just disappear when they were too far away, and that kind of broke the immersion a little bit because obviously there were technical limitations at the time. And honestly, some games today still have some pop-in issues. Now what Alex Hastings managed to do was use the level of detail technique in a 3D game, and potentially, from what records have shown, he is the first programmer to put this in a video game, a commercial video game. So what it could do was basically show landscapes really far in the background and some other items, and then the closer you got, it would become more detailed and you would, you know, see things with more clarity. And this is actually way more genius than it sounds, because not only does this mean you can get this really vast feeling in a game of just how huge the world is, but also this is actually accurate to how we human beings see things in real life. It would actually be incredibly unnatural to show things in the distance with perfect clarity in a video game, because that's just not how humans see in real life. To get a sense of immersion and depth, it's actually better to blur things out a little bit in the background, and then as you get closer it becomes in more detail. So while Hastings was just made that to, you know, make with the technical limitations of the time, it actually ended up being way more immersive than it sounds. And this is exactly where I'm going with Breath of the Wild. This shot where you can see these landscapes so far in the distance, they look a little closer than you would assume until you play the game. They are legitimately in-game miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles away, but you can still see them in the background, and they're legitimately places that you can eventually reach and climb up and touch and stuff. It's not like a background picture pasted into the background. It is all genuinely there, and it is all thanks to the level of detail code in this video game that goes all the way back to the original Spyro the Dragon. Forgot to mention that Naughty Dog, the creators of the original Crash Bandicoot series, were so impressed with Hastings' work for Spyro the Dragon that they immediately took inspiration for that for the future Crash Bandicoot games, such as Crash Bandicoot 3 with the jet ski levels. So honestly, what I'm just saying is, I just really think Alex Hastings deserves more credit for creating this beautiful sense of absolute vast epicness in a video game, and just being able to completely lose yourself and see things in the distance and go, oh my goodness, I can go all the way over there. It's fantastic. And there's definitely some pop-in issues, particularly with enemies and maybe some little flowers, but in terms of how far you can see into the world and just know how far you can go and explore, that never goes away. Like, you can constantly see further and further into the background of where you could explore, and it's actually such an amazing feeling. The first like hour I played this game, my partner had to put up with me just like absolutely gobsmacked, just looking everywhere that I could go and just being like, I can't believe this is absolutely amazing. And to go back to Spyro the Dragon, you know, that feeling when you first start the game at the artisan's home and there's this huge world and you can choose which direction you want to go. Like, where do I want to go? Do I want to go through that like a tunnel to the castle? Do I want to go to the waterfall in the distance I see there? Like, that feeling exactly happened with Breath in the Wild, and it was just absolutely wonderful having that childhood feeling back. I've heard other people say this, and I totally agree. It brings back this childlike sense of wonder that was lost, I feel, in video games lately, because when you get older and you know how games are made, and you know there are limits in games, like, you know, invisible walls, or like, oh, that mountain's not really there, that's like, you know, background art put in the background, like a skybox or something. And when you're a child, you don't know these things. You're like, oh, I wonder what's over there, I could go over there, and you know. And so Breath of the Wild has really brought that feeling back, that like, this time you know you can go all the way over there. That's not just a mountain painted in the background, it's really there. You can just keep running and running and running. No loading screens, you'll just keep running. You go for hours and you could finally reach that mountain and be like, it was really there all along. And while this game is being so hyped up at the moment, I really don't feel like I'm just caught up in the hype because of the amount of hours I've played, and I'm still feeling exactly the same way. Yes, it's another open world game, but it does it so much better. I've had really bad struggles trying to get into open world games because they just don't have that freedom of exploration and just interacting with the world itself like Breath of the Wild does. And just how beautiful it is, how it's got like this beautiful painting style. I'm really glad they didn't go for hyper realistic in this game. They went for a more cell shaded painting look because it'll age much better. Some other reviewers have said, I just cannot describe how expansive this game feels. It's just really special. It's like something, honestly, it feels like a masterpiece, honestly. And that's saying that with the technical issues that both the Switch and the Wii versions have had to do with frame rate in certain kind of busier areas. So yeah, thank you for letting me fangirl about Zelda Breath of the Wild, along with intertwining it with my fangirling for the original Spyro the Dragon back from '97. But hopefully those who are also enjoying the game could enjoy talking about the excitement with me, and also fans of Spyro the Dragon could like understand why I was going with this. I would honestly recommend, if the original Spyro the Dragon games were really special to you with your childhood and playing video games, definitely get Breath of the Wild. It's not long until you unlock the glider ability, because you're supposed to get it before you go out of the tutorial area. So you will have it for the game, and you will just get that feeling back. It will be absolutely wonderful because it's just been so long. So long. Isn't it right? Far too long. I'm not gonna lie, I really want to go back and play it now some more. So I will see you guys next time, and bye bye for now.